welcome you to our third lecture on management consulting. This is Institute of Management Consultants Tanzania, and I'd like to bring you the training on certification program for management cum business consultant that also covers the leadership module as a separate module. Remember last time we introduced to you about what the Institute of Management Consultants Tanzania is doing and what its role and function. And today I would like us to work together and now start covering the sevenfold module of the Institute of Management Consultants curricula. And to that regard, for purpose of reminding you, you remember we discussed about 7 modules for the purpose of helping and supporting our candidates to pass the Certified Management Consultants examination. And we say that there are 3 stages. So there is a foundation stage that has 3 modules. Now on module 1, we'll cover the meaning, scope, and the purpose of management consulting. On module 2, we'll cover on client relationship. And on module 3, we'll cover change management process. On module 4, we'll cover culture management, profession and code of ethics. On module 5, we'll cover the process of consulting. How do you go about, including some of the tools we use for consulting. On module 6, we'll cover the consulting in specialized area. How do you do the legal consulting? How do you do the risk management consulting? How do you do the financial management consulting? How do you do marketing and distribution consulting? And e-business consulting, etc., etc. And the final module, which is within the normal syllabus, is how to manage a consulting firm, including how do you structure it, including knowledge management, how do you set a fee for consulting work. And we've got the final module, that is the leadership module, that is covered separately and also is being carried separately. So to start with, today we are going to embark into introduction to management consulting, and our aim today is to cover module 1, and that the meaning, the scope, and the purpose of management consulting. That inter alia will include what is consulting, what is management consulting. There is a difference between consultant and management consultant. We'll tell why. Generic purposes of management consulting, significance of consultant, introduction to consulting process, the past, present, and future of management consulting. Those are some of the critical areas that will be covered during the course of this discussion this afternoon. And as usual, please feel free to put up a question on our YouTube face and or on a normal platform we are using to present these materials, and we'll be more than glad to respond to you as soon as we finish the lecture. So I welcome you again, and feel comfortable, and have your notebook for you to define and take notes of the important things out of this. To start with, what is management consulting? Typically, it's an advisory services contracted for and provided to organization by a special trained and qualified person who assists in an objective and independent manner the client organization to identify problems, analyze the problem, recommend a solution to the problems, and help when requested in the implementation of the solution. So some 6 parts of the definition. Number 1, when you talk about management consulting, is advisory service. Now, a difference between management consulting and another business of consulting, is one. Management consulting is refined itself into organizational problem, into business solution provider. But other consultant might be in different areas. For example, Can it be an engineering consultant? Can it be a mining consultant? So it's a bit different in terms of structure, in terms of coverage, because for us, we call management consultant is our family, is our business doctor, is a business surgeon. So we talk about management consulting is an advisory service contracted for and provided by organization by a specially trained and qualified person. So first of all is consulting service, advisory service. Number two, it deals with the organization. Number three is done by a person with knowledge and experience on what you want to advise. Number four, it is objective based and independent orientation. The aim is to identify problems, analyze such problems, and recommend solution to the problems. But also, if requested, can assist in the implementation. That is what we call management consulting or management consulting. There are some key terms. Number one, the consultant, management consultant, will identify a problem. Many times you need to be careful on that, because management will come to you as consultant, they've already made up the problem they believe it's correct, which now leads to a poor diagnostic, leading to wastage of time and money during implementation, because poor diagnostic will result into expensive or non-expensive approach on this matter. In that regard, it is very important that problem identification should be done collaboratively between the consultant and the client. So they identify a problem, recommend a solution, and sometimes a consultant can be called to support in the implementation of the solution. You need to understand that the problem identification, solution providing, and supporting, it calls for different roles and it requires different competencies on a consultant. So a single consultant cannot do all this. The consultant will sometimes adopt the role of a mentor, at other time a role of a creator, while in other occasions a consultant is a leader. Depends. So he may play a lot of role. Might be a creator, so should have creative skills. Might be a mentor, so should have a mentoring skills. But also might be as a leader, and therefore a need for leadership skills. Many times management consultants have been defined or called as company doctors. It is apt because the very term management consultant appears to have originated from medical profession. If a person is ill, would seek out a consultant physician, maybe in his or her consulting rooms. The word consultant first came to mean someone who advised you sought. From this overgoing, we say consulting is a notion that the consultant advises and encourages but never actually manages. The consultant should never be a manager, but he advises and encourages. With the exception of outsourcing, whereby you may find you are doing both. When a management consultant takes a role of outsource the contract, then it takes the role of management. It's no more independent or impartial advisor. Whether the outsourcing is part of management consulting is still being questioned, but what cannot be denied is that outsourcing is what management consultants are increasingly offering. So what is consulting then? Typically is the process of rendering independent advice and assistance about management issue. It includes identifying and investigating problems or opportunities, recommending appropriate actions, and helping to implement those recommendations. Typically, it's a service provided to the business, public, and other undertaking by an independent and qualified person or persons in identifying and investigating problems concerning with policy, organization, procedure, and method, recommending appropriate action, and help to implement those whose recommendation. Let's go further and see how do we approach in defining consultancies. There is a broad functional view whereby say consulting is any form of providing help on content, process, or structure of a task or series of tasks, where the consultant is not actually responsible for doing the task itself, but is helping those who are doing it. A person is a consultant anytime is trying to change or improve a situation, but have no direct control over the implementation. Most people in staff role in organizations are really consultancy, even if they don't officially call themselves consultant. So maybe as you reading this afternoon, you might be a consultant. The key issue is to provide help on content, process, or structure, or series of tasks in an organization. So the first approach is broad functional view of consulting, and the second approach is special professional service approach, where we say management consulting is advisory service contracted for and provided to organizations by specially trained and qualified persons who assist in an objective and independent manner the client to identify management problems, analyze such problems, and recommend solutions to the problem, and help when requested in implementation of the solution. So this is a follow. Number one, identify problem. Number two, analyze the problem. Number three, we say about recommend the solution. Number four, we say that a consultant might be called to help when things are so difficult, or when you want to implement what the consultant is a suggestion. According to International Council of Management Consultants, so when you talk about International Council of Management Consultants, we tell you that it's about independent advice, independent assistance about the process of management to clients with management responsibility. Typically, Management Consulting Association of UK define management consultants as the creation of value for organization through improved performance achieved by providing objective advice and implementing business solution. So it's not about the issue of advising. You may advise something which is not practical. It's an issue of supporting the implementation. Typically, consulting involves individuals, whether self-employed or employed, individually or collectively, using their knowledge, experience, and analytical problem-solving skills to add value into whole society of organization, and therefore to the economy as a whole within the framework of appropriate and relevant professional standards, discipline, and ethics. To try to take ownership of organization's problem and use research and logic to develop possible option for a way forward. That's another definition of management consulting. Giving solution to the problems that companies have. It's just like a medical doctor. But here we're talking about organizational doctor. And that's management consulting. So consulting is about helping an organization get from A to B, perhaps without knowing at the outset where A is, where B is, the appetite of the journey, and the role in it. If you look on MCA, the Management Consultants Association of UK, it defined consulting as creation of value for organization through improved performance, achieved by providing objective advice and implementing business solution. Consulting involves individuals, whether self-employed, individually, self-employed or employed, individually or collective, using their knowledge and experience and analytical or problem-solving skills to add value into a wider variety of organization, and therefore to the UK economy as a whole, within the framework of appropriate and relevant professional standard, discipline, and ethics. Further to that, consultants is try to take ownership of organizational problems and use research and logic to develop possible options for the way forward. Is giving solution to the problem that companies have. Consulting is about helping an organization get from point A to B, perhaps without knowing from the outset where A is and where B is, the appetite for the journey or your role in it. Someone said consulting is someone giving you a watch and to read for him. Management consulting is a generic term to apply to those who perform all or some of typical consulting function in the field of management in either a full-time or part-time basis. Here I want to put a very clear statement. Typically, a client is a manager, administrator, or organization using the service of management consultants in a private business, public enterprise, government, if you look further, we say consulting is about creation of value through improved performance, achieved by providing objective advice and implementing solution. Further, Matt Bowman said is to take ownership of the organization's problem and use research and logic to develop possible solution for a way forward. Typically, we talk about giving solution problem that companies have. Consultants equals to change. What? Feasibility is exploration. Change into implementation, review, and then evolution. Why? Because you need additional capacity, third-party objectivity, process skills, access to specific information, including the so-called bad gay. Now, we have got eras, or we call it historical development of consultants. We've got a scientific management, strategy boutiques, technology-enabled change. Let's have a pause of 5 minutes as we discuss the evolution of management consulting from scientific management and what is strategy boutiques and technology-enabled change. Before you go there, I would like us to consider a definition of MCA as a take-home. If you're taking up notes, please put that in a mark, that the creation of value for organization through improved performance, which is achieved by providing objective advice and implementing business solution. So it's about creation of value. How? By improving performance. How do you improving performance? By giving advice to management which they will implement as a business case solution. So we break for 5 minutes. As we come back, we shall continue on the eras of consultants, including scientific management, strategy boutiques, technology-enabled change, and we'll see what are those. Thank you very much for this short break. In 5 minutes, we shall invite to continue with this training. Thank you. Welcome back. We now continue with our training. And just to recall back your memory, we are talking about the meaning of consulting, provided advice, because of the level of knowledge of analysis someone has. And with consulting, you can be any person. Any person. But when you talk about management consulting, we are talking about organizations. You're a doctor to the organization. And before we went for our break, if you recall, we gave some insight of what kind of definition that you should adopt for management consulting. and that is, we are talking about creation of value for organizations through improved performance. How do you improve performance? Is by providing objective advice and implementing business solution. I need to be clear here. Consulting without implementation of the solution, it decreases and it might cause value degradation in the organization. So it's important our consulting work, management consulting work, should be value adding so that you may improve performance. And by improving performance, it increases both marketability of the consultant and the business itself. As we went for break, we talked about ELAs. ELAs means at the stages, different historical growth of the profession of management consultants. We start with scientific management during the Mark Gregory time, the strategy boutique, and technology-enabled change. Going further from there, it is imperative to understand that as management consulting starts, it based on the development of the organization. Previously, it was scientific management, and after Industrial Revolution, things turned around. People start to see the bigger view and long-term view, that strategy. But today we are talking about kind of technology-enabled approach. Now, before we go further, it's important to put very clear that in the end of the day, the apex of everything in the consulting process is achieving the organizational purpose and objectives. Consultants are not creating a new organization. Consultants are not managers. Consultants, they just provide advice. But sometimes, to some of consultants, they may be called to support implementation of the recommended changes. Now how? You need to help management to solve problems which are typical business problems. You need to talk about how do you help the organization to grow further from where it is. You need to talk about enhancement of learning, the capability mode of the organization. And lastly, you need to talk about implementing changes. But all this together, the four generic consulting purposes is to achieve organizational purpose and objective. So there are four generic consulting purposes. Number one is solving management and business problems. You're a problem solver. That's the purpose. Number two is identifying and